John chapter 11 verse 50, the encounter between Jesus and Caiaphas. Not that they met, but in chapter 11 John recounts how Caiaphas is meeting the Jewish council, deciding what to do with Jesus, and he says the famous line, "It is expedient that one person should perish, than that the whole nation should perish." So he brings out a principle which is at the heart of Christianity. But there's two principles going here. One is the Caiaphas principle, which is the principle of what is expedient, and the other is the Jesus principle, the principle of what is good and right. Vicarious sacrifice. The word vicarious means substitution. It means one person standing in the place of another. Substitutionary. And so vicarious suffering means one person who suffers instead of another person suffering. So why am I saying it's wrong for Caiaphas to speak this way? It's wrong because it's totally unjust. Someone had said in the council that the accused, Jesus, is after all innocent. And Caiaphas' answer is, well, it's better that one should die than many should die. It's expedient for us that one person should take our place on the suffering, that the whole nation doesn't perish. So Caiaphas is talking about quantity, a matter of numbers, the unjust expediency of just shifting a boundary stone to do some good. It's good that everybody lives, isn't it? So why not one person die so that everybody lives? But expediency, listen carefully, never changes what is right or what is wrong. Sure, you do what's expedient when you're unable to do what's best. Okay, I understand that. But in right or wrong, there's no better or best, is there? There's just right or wrong. And this is the boundary stone, and you can't shift that boundary stone. It's not expedient to do injustice. But of course, some people talk about the cross in that way, as if the law of God demanded a victim, and the purer and the nicer, the more, the better the sacrifice. And it's like a shepherd kind of looking in the flock, which one is going to be sacrificed, either on the whole world or either on the head of God's Son. But if you think about God doing that in that way as Father to Jesus, then you're making God into Caiaphas, doing something that's expedient and not what's right or what's wrong. And you can't represent the atonement, the cross of Christ and its meaning, as dependent on the justice of an unrighteous expediency. Are you following? It's complex, isn't it? But it's wonderful. You can't do it. Ultimately, Caiaphas is being selfish. It's like the old story about that you're going along on a sleigh ride through the wintry Siberian landscape with all your children, and then the wolves are chasing you, so you decide which child to throw to the wolves so that they won't get the rest of you. So, oh, how about you? Okay, Dad. So you throw one out. So, oh yeah, it's better that one should die so that we can all survive. Is that the story that you're putting on to God? No, of course not. Of course not. Shall I perish, or shall that one perish? That one. It's a selfish spirit. And it's the spirit in which Caiaphas was speaking. The Romans will come and take away our place in our nation. Better that he should die. And it's the old pagan way of sacrificing. You think that God is angry and needs to be placated with a sacrifice, with a blood sacrifice, if the crops fail, or if the storm threatens the ship on which you're sailing. Quick, throw someone overboard. Pick a sacrifice, better them than me. So the innocent one is thrown to the wolves so that we can continue our journey in safety. Better him than me. He suffered and I am saved. He bore the agony, I took the reward. Is that how we understand Christ? I've got to say, there has to be more than that. Amen? I hope you agree. So I'm saying that that thing that Caiaphas said is false, humanly speaking. But in another way, it's completely and profoundly true. Because this word vicarious, substitutionary, is not a theological term at all. It's a life term. It's how we live. It's how we understand life itself. It's about our being. Jesus said, and he's speaking about nature to start with, except a seed, except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it brings forth much fruit. He's talking about agriculture. He's saying, if you understand the laws of agriculture, you will understand the laws of God. And he's saying the seed has to die. It's a principle of life itself. Nature is the basis of the sacrifice of Jesus. God wrote nature just as clearly as God wrote the Word, which was Christ. They're just two volumes of the same book. And you see in one what you see in the other. And he himself represents nature as the parallel to the sacrifice of Christ. This is God's will. The seed dies, and out of death, life is born. Out of the composted soil, you get these young trees sprouting up vigorously and striking their roots right down deep into decay, into death, into things that have composted. Death out of life. You think of the animal kingdom, where the dove gives its life so that the hawk can live. You think of the deer being hunted by the lion. You think of the fish being eaten by the whale. It's the same principle, isn't it? How many of you ate meat last night? That animal died so that you could live in a kind of a way. It's the same principle of innocent lives being given so that I might live. And this is how we live too. Think about it. Ponder it and see if you don't recognize that the whole principle of one person giving up for another is not the whole principle of the way that we live. And may God bless you. Amen.